Alright, here we go. Over the period of a few years, an unexplainable anomaly spread across the Earth like a virus, resurrecting all the extinct animal species to have ever lived on the planet. It was slow at first, and more or less went unnoticed, but then suddenly exploded in its frequency of species revivals, and people quickly took notice of what had been previously missed by the masses. Due to the anomaly, which was all the synchronistic event was ever known as, extinct animals, including the dinosaurs, went from extinct to appearing everywhere around the planet en masse and on an ever faster and faster scale. As more and more once lost species appeared, civilization could not hold itself together, and it was slowly overwhelmed until it finally broke apart and collapsed at the seams. Survival for all species on the now overcrowded planet became a toss-up, as a free-for-all fight for survival took over the world. The Earth could barely sustain so many competing ecosystems, each completely different from each other, once separated by millions of years each, in its environment at once. Over 500 million years worth of complex life, and over 1 billion years worth of basic life, all fought for the same necessary resources that quickly became dangerously limited. Yet life hung on. As years passed, the species that managed to survive adapted to their new, somewhat unstable but functioning ecosystems, and the world calmed back into order following the planet's 6th mass extinction, and new food webs and relationships between species were established. Among them, pockets of modern human survivors clung on as well. Yet the anomaly, the resurrection event of all extinct animals, which vanished again as silently as it appeared, did one thing. It didn't just resurrect all the extinct animal species that had once lived on Earth, it also changed some individuals of each species, physically altering them, and very rarely giving some individuals of these once lost species the ability of higher thinking, intelligence equal to humans, larger body size, and even the ability to speak. There was never any explanation from scientists for what the anomaly was, how it did what it did, or how it had even happened. It had, and that was all that really mattered. This story begins 21 years after human civilization fell, and the survivors were damned to have to survive in a post-apocalyptic future, and follows the Wachowski family in their day-to-day lives in their new hostile world, lives that are about to be interrupted in the most terrifying way possible when Adam Wachowski makes a startling discovery and a grave mistake. A mistake made possible because of a terrorist group known as the True Patriots, who were living, hidden in plain sight, in a nearby community of survivors who called themselves the Patriots. A group completely unknown to the Wachowskis created a monster. A monster created from a mix of animals which was designed to excel in combat that, after a failed attack against another community of survivors the True Patriots had disdained and wanted to see burn, was now free from control of the only ones who could put a leash on him. Though injured, their hybrid dinosaur was now on a collision course with the Wachowski family, who were now caught in the aftermath of a decade-long war between survivor communities. Adam Wachowski returned home without incident. The family cabin sat in a large forest clearing, closer to a large, relatively circular pond which was decently deep for one of its size, especially in one spot that was slightly off-center from the middle, that was nearest to the tree line. Adam's morning run to the old drugstore had gone well, and tomorrow, unless plans changed, he would use the bullets he had brought back to go hunt fresh meat, some of which would both be eaten immediately, and some of which will be added to the family's winter stock, because he was about sick of the pitiful excuses of fish that were in the pond. He went around the pond and approached the front door of the wooden cabin and set his bag down on a wooden deck chair that had a roofed porch. That sat on a roofed porch. He opened the door and stepped inside, leaning his rifle against the wall in the entrance hallway, and then shut the door behind himself. Dad! Adam jumped. Adam just had time to turn and see a speeding shape collide with his midsection and wrap its arms around him. Adam grunted at the moment of the impact, then chuckled and wrapped his arms around his oldest child, his only son, Nolan. "Hey, buddy," Adam said, hugging his son, running a hand through the boy's hair. He'd left before anyone other than his wife had been awake, so he had not seen any of his children that day, nor had they seen him. Nolan looked like his father, who he was very close to. He had Adam's face and black hair, though his was not the unruly mess his father was known for having, but a much more straight, downward flowing hair that was much more like his mother's. Nolan was stout when he knew he needed to be, always willing to help out. Always to help out with things away from the house that needed an extra pair of hands or extra set of eyes. Despite that, it wasn't uncommon for him to be scared of his own shadow. Adam knew that Nolan was a brave kid at heart, but his son had self-doubt about that fact, and during tense times he was quick to panic. There was more than a few occasions when Nolan would have run away from a situation and made the issue worse if his father hadn't held him in place. Despite that, Adam had always known his son to come through in the end. Despite fear he might feel in the moment of some event, in the end, Nolan would face any danger despite his terror if it was to protect someone from his family. Despite that, Adam felt the need to prepare Nolan more than he already had throughout various survival lessons, and a good part of his focus had been on doing so. Unbeknownst to him, this had caused his other kids to feel as if they were sidelined or they didn't have their father's confidence. Nolan and his father spent long summer hours together as Adam taught his boy the ways of the new world he'd have to grow up in, the one Adam had been forced to adapt to. Adam had taught the boy the ways of the new world he'd grown up in, the one Adam had been forced to adapt to. Adam had hoped that these long lessons would help Nolan grow out of the shell of uncertainty and fear that had grown around him. But anytime things got tense, Adam could always see the boy struggling to hold himself together. It was that part of Nolan he wanted to see get swept away before he felt he could teach his other kids how to survive effectively. If need be, he felt he was willing to put off teaching his other kids past the age he planned to start on, if it meant making sure Nolan was ready. He had become so convinced of and focused on that he always picked Nolan out of his 3 kids when he needed help on anything outside of the house, despite of his other spoke-up offers. Nolan wasn't afraid of the world itself, he was afraid of what was in it, and perhaps he had less of a reason to be afraid than his father did. After all, Nolan had grown up knowing that world. Adam had been thrown into it unexpectedly. To Nolan, the world his father had grown up in, a world filled with cars, movie theaters, school, and a worldwide connection through the internet, and no living dinosaurs, sounded like the most alien thing ever. He couldn't comprehend the world his father had spent his youth in, despite hearing about it many times, and living within the shell of what it once was. Despite that, he was afraid of the things in the world, even if he knew deep down he'd always face it when he was needed, and yet his fear had never won out in a tense situation. Adam? A voice from the hall called. He smiled and looked up. "Hi, honey," he said, stepping away from his son and wrapping his arms around his wife as she entered the front hall. Adam and his wife had met in high school and had met in high school and had been together since. A true case of high school sweethearts, if there ever was one. When she came with Adam to the cabin, in the interludes, I can take a break. Holy shit! This is way harder than I thought it was going to be. I can take a break in the interludes. Though she had worked hard to make it a home for their family, once it became clear that there was no going back to normal. She always felt deep down that there had to be a safer place somewhere. Her name was Kalani, and she'd been feeling the urge to say so more than usual lately, for a very important reason, and felt that it would just take one more unexpected incident occurring for her to finally say something. about it. It had been more than 10 years since she brought up looking for somewhere else last. She was certain others had to be out there, perhaps not far away. By all accounts that she had gathered near the beginning of the apocalypse, most of the populace had survived initially, and while that number of survivors would certainly be much lower at the current time than it had been 2 decades prior, she still felt confident the sheer number of people who'd survived meant there had to be safe areas with large populations of people somewhere. In terms of appearances, Kalani looked younger than she was. Despite the constant stress that came with surviving in a post-apocalyptic world, she could still pass for someone in their mid-30s. Meanwhile, Adam looked slightly more aged than he actually was. Kalani had blonde hair that ran to just above her shoulders. She could also shoot just as well as Adam could, and was approving of the idea of her kids learning the hard truths of survival. But she had been reluctant at first, as any mother might have been, state of the world or not. As Adam embraced her, he kissed her on the lips, then the cheek, and then took a deep breath of her flowing hair. "Don't get frisky here," Kalani chuckled as he did, pulling back just a little bit. "Oh, what's wrong with a little frisk?" Adam asked, kissing her on the neck before scooting back with a playful smile. He took her hand and placed his other one on her still relatively flat stomach. There was a 6th member of the Wachowski clan on their way. They were due for arrival in 5 months. The new baby was, in fact, the very important reason Kalani's resurgence of old wishes for somewhere safer. The new baby was, in fact, the very important reason for Kalani's resurgence of old wishes. For somewhere safer than their cabin. "What's wrong?" "The eyes of one of our children are on us," Kalani said, lifting his hand away, trying to sound serious despite trying to keep laughter held back. "That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. He doesn't want to see frisking." For extreme measure, she then also pointed at her belly. "And number 4 might be listening." "Oh, fine," Adam said, pretending to pout for a second, before then leaning forward. "I'll save the rest of the frisking for later. Baby number 4 won't hear anything." He whispered, kissing his wife on the neck again, before walking out of the hallway. The fourth family member walked out of her bedroom as the group exited the hallway and entered the living room. "Hi, Dad," the middle child, the eldest daughter, greeted. She then shot her brother her usual glare. Aside from feeling resentment towards her father for what she saw as him willfully ignoring her, she was jealous that Nolan... She was jealous that Nolan got to learn the ways of surviving, and she got nothing. Her family always immediately defaulted to saying she was still too young. As a stubborn 12-year-old, she found that infuriating and hard to take. She found that, as a stubborn 12-year-old, she found that infuriating and hard to take, especially since Nolan had been properly introduced to it at roughly the same age. Nolan had been introduced to it at roughly the same age as she was currently. Yet, in his quest to help his son, Adam had never took the time to see why she was always so sicked off, especially when her younger sister never threw a tantrum over anything. Kalani found that when she brought up that Nolan had been 12 when he was given his first real lessons, well, her father... he was given his first real lessons, well, her father just seemed to not want to hear it, and it made Katrina very irritable. She felt that she was just going to explode one day, likely soon if things did not change. Whew. "Hey, Katrina," Adam greeted. Katrina rolled her eyes and went back to her bedroom, shutting the door, having just come out to give her curt greeting, as she always did. She came out of her room to give her curt greeting, as she always did. She went back to her bedroom, shutting the door. Unlike her mother and younger sister, Katrina's hair was a curly mess. though like her mother and sister, she also had it was also a bright shade of blonde. She was also the only woman in the house who ever seemed to stay grumpy. Even Kalani had never been so short-tempered when she was pregnant. Adam once joked that there was perhaps a genetic connection with the curly hair leading to grumpiness, since she had inherited it from his grumpy grandfather. Though Adam knew part of it was because she felt he didn't think she could handle herself in the outside world. He didn't think that was the case at all. He would teach her. What? He would teach her! He would teach her the ways of the world like he taught Nolan once he was sure Nolan could handle it. Once he was sure, once he was sure Nolan had learned all he could. I can't handle it. Once he was sure Nolan had learned all he could, and once he was sure Nolan had learned all he could and had gone as far as he would go, and maybe once he was sure Katrina had matured past whatever tempered state she was currently in, Adam never really understood that his lack of clear communication with his eldest daughter was... someone's calling me. Was never... the lack of clear communication with his eldest daughter had sparked their division, despite what Kalani might have told him. The usual, Adam sighed. Kalani must have thought otherwise, but... Kalani might have thought otherwise, but Adam felt she was still too young. And he didn't plan to think otherwise. And he didn't plan to think otherwise until she was at least 13. In his eyes, 12 was too young. Hi, Chica, I didn't even see you. In his eyes, 12 was too young. That was in 5 seconds. In his eyes, 12 was too young. Nolan had only gotten the basic lessons at that age, and the big stuff had waited till the following year. And the big stuff had waited till the following year. And while Adam's focus on his son might have come off as favoritism, in the eyes of his other kids, especially to Katrina, when she had learned that she might have to wait past 13. It didn't help when she had to learn she might have to wait past 13 to start learning things. If Nola didn't meet her father's expectations, that was in truth, Adam simply didn't want to expose the harsh reality of the outside world until he felt his kids were old enough to handle it. Fuck you. Until he felt kids were old enough. Nolan was at that age, and the others simply weren't. Nolan was at that age, and the others simply weren't. Katrina truly had no idea how violent and scary the outside world. Katrina had no idea how violent and scary the outside world could be. Oh my gosh, this sucks! Why did I think this was a good idea? This sucks! Remember, I get 5 seconds of not reading, and then I lose. Oh gosh, Night 3 is gonna suck. Night 3 is gonna suck. Okay, she'll get over it. I gotta start. She'll get over it, Kalani said. Having long learned that it was fruitless to try and explain... I have to check Foxy. Having learned that it was fruitless to try and explain to the both of them why things were the way they were between them.
Oh, hey, you're doing great.
I don't care. Why things were the way they were between them. Yeah, though I think you said the same thing 6 months ago, he said, looking at her and at his son. Another thing he failed to realize was the fact that he never simply sat down and told her why he was waiting, or why he didn't seem to give her as much attention. His focus on helping Nolan was so persistent that such a simple idea never crossed his mind. It never crossed his mind. Partially because he felt he didn't need to explain why. Partially because he felt he didn't need to explain why. Hey, Adam asked, looking around the living room just to make sure he had not overlooked the unaccounted for family member. Where's Maeve? Maeve Wachowski, the soon-to-not be youngest. Maeve Wachowski, the soon to no longer be the youngest. the soon-to-no-longer-be youngest family member hurried through the forest like she did almost every day. Like every day, she did it secretly, without any weapons. For a 10-year-old, this was not exactly... Hi, Chica. For a 10-year-old, this was not exactly the safest thing to do, but she never thought about any of the dangers that had lurked out in the forest, having spent her whole life surrounded by their presence. She was so used to them. It also helped that there's a certain trio out there who helped keep the area clear of most threats and had done so since they'd moved into the area. Though before Maeve met them, it was an unintentional service. Now it was one they went out of their way to perform in order to protect her and her family. Like her sister, Maeve also wanted to learn how to survive. But she, too, had been told by both her father and her mother. That she was too young. Though unlike Katrina, Maeve decided to do something about it, instead of just pout, throw tantrums, and start arguments. Maeve, being the defiant kid she was, had searched and found her own way to learn, taking the issue into her own hands. Her little secret group of friends she'd made in that quest were now teaching her how to survive. Hence why she was out in the forest, not worried about possible unseen dangers, though they were certainly there. As she passed through the trees, she stopped when 3 velociraptors, all of whom had large claws, crept out of the trees in front of her. While velociraptors typically were not as tall as someone even Maeve's age, and were covered in feathers, as well. The 3 individuals now standing before her, in the clearing before her, were all almost Utah Raptor size, standing taller than even Adam did, and only one of them adorned any feathers at all. Though one feature they all shared, other than being being oversized for their species, was their bird-like wrists, and their inward facing palms. The same. It was bird-like wrists. The same. Shit. I completely lost my place. Kill me, Chica. I completely lost my place. I think that counts. Yeah, even Freddy's laughing at me. And my dog's barking. Wow. I completely lost my place. And I could not find it again. Thanks, Chica. You released me from hell. Wow. That was awful. That legitimately sucked. I'm usually great at FNAF 1. Not being able to look at the screen for longer than just a quick glance makes this game a whole lot harder. Alright, if you like this idea somehow, let me know, and maybe I'll do it again with one of the other games. Can you imagine trying to wind up the music box in FNAF 2 doing this? Oh boy. Alright, so here's how this challenge works. I have to read Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes out loud without stopping. If I stop reading out loud, I lose. I get, like I did in the last one, I get 5 seconds to catch myself, and I can pause in the interludes between nights. That's the only time I can stop. So, the goal of this is just see how far I can get. Alright, I'm just gonna go until I die. And I don't think night 1's gonna be too bad, because I don't have to use the flashlight. Once I get to night 2, it's gonna suck. I'm gonna have to, like, take my hand off the mouse to hit shift to use the flashlight because I can't stop reading. I can barely even look at the screen. This is gonna suck. Let's go. He sees me. Charlie dropped to her hands and knees. She was wedged behind a row of arcade games, cramped into the crawl space between the consoles and the wall. Tangled electrical cords and useless plugs strewn beneath. She was cornered. The only way out was past the thing, and she wasn't fast enough to make it. There was scarcely enough room to move, but she tried to crawl backward. Her foot caught on a cord. She stopped, contorting herself to carefully dislodge it. She heard the clash of metal on metal, and the farthest console rocketed back against the wall. He hit it again, shattering the display, then attacked the next, crashing them almost rhythmically, tearing through the machinery, coming closer. I have to get out, I have to. The panicked thought was of no help. Her arm ached and she wanted to sob aloud. Blood soaked through the tattered bandage and it seemed as though she could feel it draining out of her. The console, a few feet away, crashed against the wall and Charlie flinched. He was getting closer. Shit, it's control. Damn it. He was getting closer. She could hear the grinding of gears and the clicking of servos ever louder. Eyes closed, she could still see the way he looked at her. The matted fur and the exposed metal beneath the synthetic flesh. Suddenly, the console in front of her was wrenched away. It toppled over, thrown down like a toy. The power cords beneath her hands and knees were yanked away, and Charlie slipped, almost falling. She caught herself and looked up just in time to see the downward swing of the hook. Welcome to Hurricane, Utah. Charlie smiled wryly at the sign and kept driving. The world didn't look any different from one side of the sign to the other, but she felt nervous anticipation as she passed it. She didn't recognize anything, then again, she hadn't really expected to. She wondered what the others would look like, who they were now. 10 years ago, they'd been best friends. And then it happened, and everything ended, at least for Charlie. She hadn't seen any of them since she was 7 years old. She hadn't seen any of them since she was 7 years old. They had written all the time. They had written all the time as kids, especially Marla, who wrote like she talked, fast and incoherent. But as they got older, they had grown apart, and the letters had grown fewer and further between. And the conversations leading up to this trip had been perfunctory and full of awkward pauses. Charlie repeated their names as though to reassure herself that she still remembered them. Marla, Jessica, Lamar, Carlton, John, and Michael. Michael was the reason for this trip, after all. It was 10 years since he died. 10 years since it happened. 10 years since it happened. Charlie knew it was a good thing to do, but gathering still felt slightly... Crap, I lost my place. She shivered and turned down the air conditioning, even though she... That was nearly bad. I lost my place a second there. As soon as she drove into the town center, Charlie began to recognize things. A few stores and a movie theater, which was now advertising the summer's blockbuster hit. Hopefully, Five Nights at Freddy's. She felt a brief moment of surprise, then smiled at herself. What did you expect? That the whole place would be unchanged? A monument? A monument to the moment of your departure, frozen forever in July 1985? Well, that was exactly what she had expected. She looked at her watch. Still a few hours. She looked at her watch. Still a few hours to kill. I changed the font size and it changed pages. 10 minutes later, she pulled up to a stop and got out. The house loomed up before her, its dark outline wound in the bright blue sky. Charlie leaned back against the car, slightly dizzy. She took a moment to steady herself with deep breaths. She had known it would be here. An illicit look through her aunt's bank books a few years before had told her the mortgage was paid off and that Aunt Jan was still paying property taxes. It had only been 10 years. There was no reason it should have changed at all. Charlie climbed the steps slowly, taking in the peeling paint. The third stair still had a loose board. The door was locked, but Charlie still had her key. She had never actually used it. As she took it from around her neck and slid it into the lock, she remembered. Hi! The door opened easily. Oh, fuck. The door opened easily, and Charlie looked around. She had been only 3 years old, and all the memories had faded together in a blur of child's grief and loss. Take that, boy Freddy, I didn't even look at you. The stairs stretched straight up in front of her. Instead, she went into the living room where all the furniture was still in place. Oh my gosh, this sucks. Where all the furniture was still in place. She had not really noticed it as a child, that the house was a little too large for the furniture they had. Things were spread out too widely. The coffee table was too far from the couch to reach. The easy chair too far across the room. There was a dark stain in the wooden floorboards near the center of the room. Charlie stepped around it quickly. Okay. That was short-lived. Charlie stepped around it quickly and went to the kitchen. The cupboards held only a few pots, pans, and dishes. Charlie had never felt a lack of anything as a child, but it seemed now the unnecessary enormity of the house was sort of an apology. An attempt of a man who had lost so much to give his daughter what he could. Okay. Thank goodness. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna turn the phone to the side so I can set it down and read. That should be easier. Okay. Hopefully. This is probably still gonna suck. Okay. This will be much... Okay. In her room, Aunt Jen set Charlie down and closed the bedroom door behind them. She told her to pack her suitcase, and Charlie had cried because all her things would never fit in the small case. "We can come back for the rest later," Aunt Jan said, her impatience leaking through as Charlie hovered indecisively at her dresser, trying to decide which t-shirts to bring along. They had never come back for the rest. Charlie mounted the stairs, heading to her old bedroom. The door was open, and she opened it as she opened it, she had a giddy feeling of displacement, as though her younger self might be sitting among her toys. Might look up and ask Charlie, "Who are you?" Charlie went in. Like the rest of the house, her bedroom was untouched. The walls were pale pink, and the ceiling, which sloped dramatically on one side to follow the line of the roof, was painted to match. Her old bed still stood against the wall beneath a large window. The mattress was still intact, though the sheets were gone. The window was cracked slightly open, and rotting lace curtains wavered in the gentle breeze from outside. This is much easier than holding my phone. There was a dark water stain in the paint beneath the window where the weather had gotten in over the years, betraying the house's neglect. Charlie climbed onto the bed and forced the window shut. It obeyed with a screech, and Charlie stepped back and turned her attention to the rest of the room, to her father's creations. Their first night in this house, Charlie had been afraid to sleep alone. She did not remember the night, but her father had told her about it often enough. The story had taken on the quality of a memory. She sat up and wailed until her father came to find her. So still. Don't worry about it. She had sat up and wailed until her father came to find her, until he scooped her up and held her and promised her he would make sure she was never alone again. She was was never alone again. I love, he didn't do much. He didn't do much, only waved a hand, tilted his head to the side, and said in her father's voice, "I love you, Charlie," but it was enough to give her, a night watcher. I think I skipped something, but whatever. No, it was enough to give her a night, it was enough to give her a night watcher, someone to keep her company when she could not sleep. Right now, Theodore stood in a white wicker chair in the far corner of the room. Charlie waved at him, but not activated. He did not wave back. After Theodore, the toys had gotten more complex. Some worked and some didn't. Some did not. Some seemed to have permanent glitches, while others simply did not appeal to Charlie's childish imagination. She knew her father took those back to the workshop and recycled them for parts, though she did not like to watch them dismantled. But the ones that were kept close, those she loved, they were all here now, looking at her expectantly. Ready for Freddy. Looking at her expectantly. Smiling, Charlie pushed the button beside her bed. It gave way stiffly. But nothing happened. She pushed it again, holding it down longer, and this time across the room, with the wary creak of metal and medical, the unicorn began to move. The unicorn, Charlie had named him Stanley for some reason she could no longer remember, was made of metal and had been painted glossy white. He trundled around the room in a circular track, bobbing his head stiffly up and down. The track squealed as Stanley rounded a corner and came to a stop beside the bed. Charlie knelt beside him on the floor and patted his flank. His glossy paint was chipped and peeling, and his face was given over to rust. Mangles here. His eyes were lively, gazing out of the decay. Out of the decay. You need a new coat of paint, Stanley, Charlie said. The unicorn stared unresponsive. At the foot of her bed, there was a wheel. Made of patched-together metal. It had always reminded her of something she might find on a submarine. Charlie turned it. It stuck for a moment, then gave way. That was short-lived. Rotating as it always did. She sailed Ella on her track, the child-sized doll. Bearing a teacup and saucer in her tiny hands. Elsa's plaid dress was still crisp and... I knew I should have put the mask down sooner, or the camera down sooner. You have no idea how hard this is! You have no idea how hard this actually is. I have to rely on audio only. I can't look at the screen for more than a second. Though, actually setting my phone down and reading it like this is much easier than trying to hold it and hit the button. Holy shit. The things I do to relax. The things I do to just chill out and relax. I play Five Nights at Freddy's. That sucked. That was way harder than doing this in FNAF 1. I got to night 3 at least in that one. Oh gosh, that sucked. That was awful. Join me next time because we're gonna do it for FNAF 3. Hope to see you there. And hey, very excited for the movie news. Gotta love it. And obviously, I was reading FNAF The Silver Eyes. Go check out the actual book itself. Purchase it, read it in its entirety, and have fun. It's more Five Nights at Freddy's content for you to enjoy. And as a FNAF fan, since before this game even came out, it's so crazy seeing what it's become. You got the movie coming out. the novels and yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna quit ranting, and I'll see you in the next video. Go check out me doing this in FNAF 1. I'll put it in the description, and join me next week because I'll be doing this in FNAF 3. Can't wait. Have a good one, everyone! Alright, so, just like the last time we did this and the other games, the rules of this challenge are very simple. I have to read a book out loud without stopping. Last time it was The Silver Eyes, this time it is going to be The Twisted Ones. I have to read out loud without stopping. If I stop for up to 5 seconds, I lose. The only times that I can stop reading is in between the nights and in the minigames. During the nights themselves, I have to keep reading, which means I can barely look at the screen. Now, night 1 isn't going to be too bad because there's nothing going on, but we're just going to see how far I can get before I die. Let's go. Chapter 1. Don't trust your eyes. And my dog is barking. Dr. Treadwell walked back and forth across the platform in front of the auditorium. Her steps were slow and even, almost hypnotic. Your eyes deceive you every day, filling the blanks for you in a world of sensory overload. An image of a dizzying geometric detail lit up the canvas screen behind her. When I say sensory overload, I mean that quite literally. At every moment, your senses are receiving far more information than they can process all at once. And your mind is forced to choose which signals to pay attention to. It does that based on your experiences and your expectation of what is normal. The things... Man, he is really barking. I'm sorry about that. The things we are familiar with are things we can, for the most part, ignore. We see this part easily with the olfactory fatigue, when your nose ceases to perceive a smell when you would have been around it for a while. You may be quite thankful for this phenomenon depending on the habits of your roommate. The class tittered dutifully and became quiet as an image of another multicolored design flashed across the screen. The professor gave a hint of a smile before continuing. Your mind creates motion when there is none. It fills in colors and trajectories based on what you've seen before, and it calculates what you should be seeing now. Another image flashed into the overhead. If your mind didn't do this, then simply walking outside and feeling a tree would consume all your mental energy, leaving no resources to do anything else. In order for you to function in the world, your mind fills in the spaces of that tree with its own leaves and branches. 100 pencils scribbled all at once, filling the lecture hall with a sound like scurrying mice. It's why when you enter a house for the first time, you experience a moment of dizziness. Your mind is taking in more than usual. It's drawing a floor plan, creating a palette of colors, and saving an inventory of images to draw from later. So you don't have to go through the exhausting intake every single time. The next time you enter the same house, you'll already know where you are. Charlie! An urgent voice whispered her name inches from her ear. Charlie kept writing. She was staring straight ahead at the display in front of the lecture hall. As Dr. Treadwell went on, she paced faster, occasionally flinging an arm toward the screen to illustrate her point. Her words seemed to be falling behind as her mind raced on ahead. Charlie realized by the second day of class that her professor sometimes broke off in the middle of one sentence, only to finish an entirely different one. Charlie had realized the second day of class professor an entirely different one. It was like she had skimmed the text in her head, reading out a few words here and there. Most of the students in her robotics class found it maddening, but Charlie liked it. It made the lesson kind of like doing a puzzle, just like this challenge. The screen flashed again, displaying an assortment of mechanical parts and a diagram of an eye. This is what you must recreate. Dr. Treadwell stepped back from the image. Trying to click the class. Basic artificial intelligence is all about sensory control. You won't be dealing with a mind that can filter these things out for itself. You must design programs that recognize basic shapes while discarding unimportant information. You must do it for your robot You must do for your robot what your own mind does for you. Create a simplified and organized assembly of information based on what is relevant. Let's start by looking at some examples of basic recognition. Charlie, hissed the voice again, and she waved her pencil impatiently at the figure over her shoulder. Okay, between the nights I can stop. I was trying to get a feel for that, ironically kind of what the professor was talking about there. I was trying to get a feel for trying to click on the things without having to look at the screen. Oh gosh, I can only imagine what doing this in FNAF 4 would be like. I don't think you could do this in FNAF 4 and hope for anything. The thing is, so I was trying to get basically a feeling of clicking on the buttons without looking at the screen, and I was not doing it very well, so that was unfortunate. Run away! So this is gonna suck. This is gonna suck a whole lot. The paper in front of her was cut formulas, notes in the margins, sketches, diagrams. She wanted to get everything all down at once.
Hello?
Not just the math, but all the things. Not just the math, but all the things she already knew. She'd retain it more easily. She felt... she'd retain it more easily. She felt hungry for it, alert, watching for new tidbits of information like a dog under the dinner table. A boy near the front of the table raised his hand to ask the question, and Charlie felt a brief flare of impatience. Now the whole class would have to stop for a while.
Hi.
Treadwell went back to explain. While Treadwell went back to explain some concept, Charlie let her mind wander, sketching absently in the margins of her notebook. John would be here, and she glanced restlessly at her watch. An hour. Shit. An hour. Charlie let her mind here in an hour. I told him maybe someday we'll see.
Hello?
I told her that maybe someday, oh man, this makes me look at the screen so much more. I told her maybe someday we'll see each other again. He had called out.
Hello?
Oh, shit. Okay. He had called out. Out of the blue. I'm going to be passing through. I'm going to be passing through, he said, and Charlotte didn't bother asking how he knew where she was. Of course he would know. There was no reason not to meet him. She had found herself all alternatively excited and filled with dread. Now, as she absently sketched rectangular forms along the bottom of her notebook paper, her stomach jumped. A little spasm of nerves. It felt like a lifetime since she last saw him. Sometimes it felt like she'd seen him yesterday. As if the last year hadn't passed. But of course it hadn't. Everything had changed for Charlie once again. That May, the night of her 18th birthday. Okay, it's fine. The night of her 18th birthday, the dreams had begun. The dreams had begun. Charlie was long accustomed to nightmares. The worst moments of her past forced up like glue into twisted version of memories already too terrible to recall. She had shoved those dreams to the back of her mind. In the morning, fuck me, he's in the vents. I have no idea which vents. I don't know where he is. Well, I already lost. That was 5 seconds. Wow, that sucked! That sucked so much! This is awful! Are you kidding me? I can't even beat Night 2 with this. Okay, so this is so much... Oh, I did say it was the hardest FNAF challenge ever. Yeah. Kill me, Springtrap, because I'm already dead. You got through the vent, and I don't know where you are, so... Alright, well... My ego has taken a massive hit. I'm dead. Here we go. No. Now my dog's in here. When's he gonna show up? I'm gonna make him come to me. So, I'm normally very good at FNAF 3, but... Well, he's close. I'm normally very good at FNAF 3. But the thing that makes this game different than the other versions of doing this challenge is I have to look at the screen so much more in this game in particular than you have to in the others. Because in the other game, like in FNAF 1, I know it so well that I was able to get to night 3, but I also, like, the audios tell me where they are and stuff. In FNAF 2, I mostly, because I've played that game so much, I could just do it on reflex, like putting the mask down without even looking at the screen. Like, yeah, sure. I could do it on just instinct. I could put the mask down without even looking at the screen, and I did do that. The only thing I really had to look at was the music box. Are you ever gonna... Come on, dude. I've been dying for like 3 hours now. With this game, though, and something I didn't really think about, was the fact I'm already dead. Don't let me live, because I'm already dead. I already lost. Because I quit reading. The reason I quit reading is I didn't take this into consideration. You have to look at the screen so much more than you do in the other games, because the cameras are so much more important in this game in particular. So... This is actually probably one of the hardest games to actually do that in. I feel like I've robbed you of good content as well. I do. I was hoping I could at least get to like night 2 or 3. I tell you what, if I live, I will go back to reading on night 3, but I technically already lost. Oh my. Okay, I will go back to reading. I will, I promise. On night 3, and we'll just see what happens. But I've technically already lost, so... I sat there for like 4 hours. How did he not kill me? And my dog is still barking. He keeps running in here, and I'm afraid he's gonna come in here and bark. Okay. Okay, so note to self, what have I learned? I have to look at the screen a whole lot more, which means I'm really gonna have to... Alright. Okay, I technically lost, but let's just see if I can do any better, okay? Alright. These dreams were different. When she woke, she was physically exhausted. Not just drained, but sore. Her muscles weak. Her hands were stiff and aching like they'd been clenched for hours. Like they'd been clenched for hours. These new dreams didn't come every night, and when they did, they interrupted her regular nightmares and took over.
Hi.
They interrupted her regular nightmares and took over. It didn't matter if she was running, screaming for her life, or once aiming through the diminished place she started. Suddenly, from nowhere, she would sense him. Sammy, her lost twin brother, was near. She knew he was present the same way she knew that she was present. The same way he knew she was present.
Hello?
He was present. The same way that she was present. Oh, shit. The same way that she was present. Oh, damn it. You see what I mean? I already fucking did it again. The actual shit? Where is... There he is. See what I mean? I've already done it again. It's that hard. It's that hard. Oh my god! Holy shit. Chica is actually fucking terrifying. What the hell? Here we go. Okay, so... This is so much harder. I did not expect that. This is so much harder. Trying to read and this... He's in here barking. Get out. Go. Oh my gosh. That actually really did surprise me. I was not expecting this game to be so much harder. Harder trying to read constantly. Oh, I know where you are. Okay, you're fine.
Hello?
Okay, so I'm already dead. That's fine. Or I've already lost. That's fine. I'll keep reading. She knew he was present in the same way that he knew she was present. And whatever the dream was, And whatever the dream was, it dropped away. Oh no, he came back here. And whatever the dream was, it dropped away. That's fine. Whatever. Oh my gosh, this is actually so much harder. What is this? I thought FNAF 2 would be the hardest. Why is this one worse? I'm gonna have to retry this one, I think. I was not prepared for just how ridiculously hard this ended up being. Okay, I'm just gonna try to keep him on camera 3. Hey, my guy. Fuck me. Hey. What's up, bud? Wait, what? What? Oh, he's there. That's interesting.
Hi.
That's interesting. Okay, why? Okay, so clearly, I've already very much lost trying to read without dying, because holy crap, that went horribly wrong so quickly. But literally, I could do the clickbait "gone wrong" in my video here, and it would actually be true because it legit went wrong in every way it could have. Okay, he's gonna be. I know where he is. Okay, so here.
Hello.
Whatever. Again, if I survive the night, I'll go back to just reading just to make it interesting, but at this point, I've already lost. I lost on night 2. Just... Okay, whatever. You guys really liked the FNAF 2 one, so might as well keep providing the sweet content that you enjoy. Back. Because the FNAF 2 video did really well, I was kind of surprised. This video is just a waste of everyone's time. The FNAF 2 video, great stuff. Everyone seemed to really like it. This one is just going to be a waste of everyone's time because I've lost this. He saw a cat. I guarantee he saw the neighbor's cat. I guarantee you saw the neighbor's cat. You saw the neighbor's cat. You saw the neighbor's cat, and it just sets him off. Yeah, it does. That's Tank, everyone. That is Tank.
Hello.
Squeaking behind me. With a name like Tank, you probably expect a giant Rottweiler. Nope, he's a tiny little sheepoo. I think I have Vent 5 closed, so I should be okay. I can't... I am literally half-assing this. How am I doing so good? Well, if I was playing FNAF 3 normally, I'm literally just half-assing this because I've already lost the challenge.
Hello.
But again, I promise you, I will keep reading on night 4 if I do get there, just to see how it goes. Which, oh my gosh, this is... It's fine. I don't feel right. I feel like I don't feel right. I tried so hard to let him kill me on night 2, and he just wouldn't do it for like 4 hours. Alright, well, we'll keep going. We will keep reading. Imagine if this is when I beat FNAF 3 without dying. That would be the biggest insult. The one time I'm not trying to do it. I'm gonna die on night 4. I'm definitely gonna die on night 4. Okay, this time, no matter what, I actually will just read. I don't even care. I'm just gonna read until I actually die. The thing is, though, I keep losing my place and stopping, so... Alright. You wanna see how this challenge should be played? Go watch my video of me doing this in FNAF 2. You'll enjoy yourself. Alright, he's already here. She knew he was present in the same way that he knew that she was present, and my dog is back again. I know that you're present as well. He never answered. She would drop to her hands and knees, feeling her way through the dark, letting his presence
Hello?
guide her until she came to a barrier. It was smooth, cold, and metal.
Hi.
No Foxy. Okay. It was smooth, cold, and metal. She would drop to her hands in smooth, cold metal. She couldn't see it, but she hit hard with her fist and echoed, "Sammy," she would call. She would hit harder, hitting harder. She stood, reaching up to see if... she stood, reaching up to see if... Where actually is he? Oh, fuck. She reached. Jeez. I keep losing, and I keep feeling bad for still trying. She stood, reaching up to see if she could scale back. Scale the slick surface, but it stretched up far above her. She beat her fists against the barricade. Until they hurt. She screamed her brother's name until her throat was raw, until she fell to the floor and leaned on the solid metal, pressing her cheek to the cool surface and hoping for a whisper from the other side. He was there. She knew it as surely as if he was part of herself. She knew in those dreams that he would be present. Worse, when she was awake, she knew he was not there. In August, Charlie and Aunt Jane had their first fight. They'd always been too distant to really argue. Why are you not moving? Charlie never really... Okay.
Hello?
Shit. It's not good. I'm not good. I'm not okay. To really fight. They'd been too close to ever really fight. I know. By now, Charlie was old enough to understand that Jen had meant as a gesture of respect. I think I skipped the part, but that's fine. A way to reassure Charlie that her father wouldn't be forgotten. He's on Camp 5. Hurry up. Hurry up! He's gotta be on Camp 5. It's fine! Fuck you! Where are you? I think he's gonna be here. Had been a way to reassure...
Hello?
Gotcha. Okay, it had been a way to, don't expect parenting, don't expect love. And so Jen had never failed to take care of Charlie. Never failed to take care of... Hey. You're a real asshole, you know that, Springtrap? You are the asshole of Five Nights at Freddy's of all time. Please end this horrible video. Thank you. That sucked. And I feel like I let you all down because I died, or I lost so early. And then I just kept it going. It was like a train wreck that wouldn't stop. It just kept getting worse. But seriously, I feel like I have cheated you all of the entertainment you deserve, because in the FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 one of these, I was scrambling, desperately trying to keep rooting while the animatronics were bearing down on me, and then I got the crap scared out of me. But here, I freaking just lost my place, and then I couldn't find it again. And, I feel so just wrong. But I will add, I was not expecting this to be that much harder, but it really was, because in FNAF 3, you have to look at the screen. You have to, so maybe if I re-attempt it, what I can do is like hold my phone like this. Yeah. Sure, okay. Okay, if I re-attempt it, that's what I'll do. I'll hold my phone up to here so I can at least see both at the same time. That'll probably be easier. I was trying to repeat what I did in 2 and I just set it down right here because that worked in 2. That doesn't work for this game, so cool. Alright, I will re-attempt it in this game probably next week, so until then, have a good one, everyone. I hope you somehow found some enjoyment out of this video, and I will see you in the next one. Alright, here we are again, trying the hardest FNAF challenge ever in FNAF 3. Because even though this says, hey, I got to night 4, I botched it last time. I lost on night 2, technically. So, the way this custom challenge works is, I have to read a book out loud without stopping. Today it's going to be Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit. I have to read out loud without stopping. and if I stop, I lose. The whole point is, let's just see how far I can get. The goal is to beat the game, but I have to do it while reading out loud, so it makes it absurdly hard because I can't barely ever look at the screen, so let's see if we can't do a little bit better than we did last time. Into the pit. The dead possum's still there. Oswald was looking out the passenger window at the gray on the side of the road. Somehow, it looked even deader than it had yesterday. Last night's rain hadn't helped. Also, 5 seconds of not being able to read. Nothing looks deader than a dead possum, Oswald's dad said. What's that? Except this town, Oswald mumbles, looking at the boarded up storefronts and the display windows, which were displaying nothing but dust. What's that? His dad said. He was already wearing the stupid red vest they put him in when he worked at the deli counter at the snack space. Oswald wished he'd wait to put it on until he dropped him off at school. This town, Oswald said, louder this time.
Hi.
This town looks deader than a dead possum. His dad laughed. Well, I don't guess I can argue with that. 3 years ago, when Oswald was 7, there had actually been stuff to do here. A movie theater, a game and card store, and an ice cream shop with an amazing waffle cone. But then the mill had closed. The mill had basically been the reason the town existed. Oswald's dad had lost his job, so had hundreds of other kids' moms and dads. Lots of families had moved away, including Oswald's best friend and his family. Oswald's family had stayed because his mom's job at the hospital was steady, and they didn't want to move far away from Grandma. So Dad ended up with a part-time job at the snack space, which paid $5 an hour less than he'd made at the mill, and Oswald watched the town die. One business after another shut down, like the organs in a dying body, because nobody had the money for movies or games or amazing waffle cones anymore. Are you excited it's the last day of school? Dad asked. It was one of those questions adults always asked. How was your day, and did you brush your teeth? Oswald shrugged. I guess, but there's nothing to do with Ben gone. School's boring, but home's boring too. When I was 10, I wasn't home in the summer until I got called home for supper, Dad said. I rode my bike and played baseball and got into all kinds of trouble. Are you saying I should get in trouble? Oswald said. No, I'm saying you should have fun. Dad pulled into the drop-off line at the Westbrook Elementary. Have fun. He made it sound so easy. Oswald walked through the school's double doors and ran smack into Dylan Cooper, the last person he wanted to see. Oswald was apparently the first person Dylan wanted to see, though. Because his mouth spread in a wide grin. Dylan was the tallest kid in the 5th grade and clearly enjoyed looming over his victims. Well, if it isn't Oswald the Ocelot, he said, his grin spreading and possibly wider. That one never gets old, does it? Oswald walked past Dylan and was relieved when his tormentor chose not to follow him. When Oswald and his 5th grade classmates were preschoolers, there was a cartoon on one of the little kid channels about a big pink ocelot named Oswald. As a result, Dylan and his friends started calling him Oswald the Ocelot on the first day of kindergarten and had never stopped. Dylan was the kind of kid who'd pick on anything that made you different. If it hadn't been Oswald's name, it would have been his freckles or his cowlick. The name-calling had gotten much worse this year in U.S. history when they learned the man who shot John F. Kennedy was named Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald would rather be an ocelot than an assassin. Since it was the last day... Okay. And I can stop in the between 9 bits. So what I was trying to do there was, I was trying to get okay at clicking without really looking at the screen, because the thing is, I kind of have to get good at that for this to work. In all of them, I kind of have to get good at just doing the things to do the nights without actually looking at the screen. Because, like in FNAF 2, I had to put the mask down every time without being able to look at where the thing was, and I was just able to do it on instinct because I played FNAF 2 so much, but That's kind of what I have to deal with, though. I have to just try to get good at, I can't get out. Yeah, I have to basically try to do it without looking at the screen, and it sucks. The name calling here in U.S. history, when they learned Lee Harvey Oswald, since it was the last day of school, there was no attempt at doing any kind of real work. Miss Meekham had announced the day before that students were allowed to bring their electronics as long as they took responsibility for anything getting lost or broken. The announcement meant that no work would be done towards any educational activities of any kind. Oswald didn't have any modern electronics. Sure, there was one laptop at home.
Hello?
There was one laptop at home. There was a laptop at home, but the whole family shared it, and he wasn't allowed to bring it to school. He had a phone, but it was the saddest, most out-of-date model imaginable.
Hi.
It was the most out-of-date model imaginable, and he didn't want to take it out of his pocket because he knew any kid who saw it would make fun of how pathetic it was. So while other kids played games on their tablets or handheld consoles, Oswald sat. After sitting became intolerable, he took out a notebook and pencil and started to draw. He wasn't the best artist in the world. But there's enough images that were identifiable. There was a certain cartooning, I swear.
Hello?
Okay. The best thing he'd get lost in it. The best thing he could do about drawing, though, was get lost in it. And it was like he fell into the paper and became part of the scene he was creating. It was a welcome escape. He didn't know why, but lately he had been drawing mechanical animals, bears, bunnies, and birds, oh my. He imagined them being human-sized and moving with the jerkiness of robots in an old science fiction movie. They were furry on the outside.
Hi.
They were furry on the outside. But the fur covered a hard metal skeleton filled with gears and circuits. Sometimes he drew the animals' exposed skeletons or sketched them with fur peeled back to show some of the mechanical workings underneath. It was a creepy effect, like seeing a person's skull peeking out from beneath their skin. Oswald was so immersed in his drawings that he was startled when Mrs. Meekin turned off the lights to show a movie. Movies were always a teacher's final act of desperation on the day before break, a way to keep the kids quiet and relatively still for an hour and a half before...
Hi.
A way to keep the kids still for an hour and a half. A way to keep the kids still for an hour and a half before setting them loose for the summer. The movie Miss Meekin chose was, in Oswald's opinion, too babyish for a room full of 5th graders. It was about a farm of talking animals, and he had watched it before, but he watched it again, really. What else did he have to do?
Hello?
What else did he have to do? At recess, kids still sit around tossing a ball back and forth and talking about what they were going to do all summer. I'm going to football camp. I'm going to basketball camp. I'm going to hang out at my neighborhood pool. I'm going to hang out at my neighborhood pool. I'm going to stay with my grandparents in Florida. Oswald sat on a bench and listened. For him, there would be no camps and no pool memberships and no trips because there was no money. And so he'd draw pictures. Play his old games he'd already beaten 1,000 times, and maybe go to the library. If Ben were still there, it would be different. Even if he was just doing the same old stuff, they'd be doing it together, and Ben could always make Oswald laugh. Riffling through video game characters or doing perfect impersonation of one of their teachers, he and Ben had fun no matter what. No matter what they did. But now a summer without Ben yawned before him, wide and empty. Man, this night's a whole lot longer than night 1. Most days, Oswald's mom worked from 2 p.m. until 12 a.m. So his dad had to make dinner. Usually, they got by on frozen meals like lasagna, or chicken pot pie, or cold cuts and potato salad from the snack space. From the snack space deli that were good enough to eat but not good enough to sell. When Dad did cook, it was usually things that required boiling water. Well, Dad got their dinner ready. Oswald's job was to feed Jinx, their very spoiled black cat. Oswald often thought that he used...
Hello?
Oswald thought that he used, the same amount of cooking skill in opening Jinx's can of stinky cat food as his dad used in their dinner preparations. Tonight, Oswald and Dad were sitting down, plates of canned corn, a box of blue mac and cheese, and plates of blue box mac and cheese, and some canned corn that his dad had zapped in the microwave. It was very yellow meal. I know. You know, I was thinking, Dad said, squirting ketchup onto his macaroni and cheese. Yeah, why does he? Oh my gosh. I promise, this is a whole lot harder than it actually looks like it is. Yay, I'm Bonnie now. Let's go get ripped apart by the purple guy. And my dog's barking. So Oswald spends his summer doing art. What do you guys do over your summers? I wrote a novel. I wrote 2 novels, actually, but who's keeping count? Come on, get out of the room! Gosh. I can never do it on PC, but I've been able to do it on mobile before. Well, I've already done better than the last time. Why did he do that, Oswald? I know you're old enough to stay home by yourself some, but I don't like the idea of you staying by yourself. I don't like this the whole day while your mom and I are at work. I was thinking you could ride into town with me in the mornings. I could drop you off at the library. You could read, surf the net. Oswald couldn't let this one slide. How out of date could his dad be? Nobody said surf the net anymore. Nobody said surf the net anymore. No one says surf the net anymore, Dad. They do now because I just said it. Dad forked up some macaroni. Anyway, I thought you could hang out in the library in the mornings. When you get hungry, you could head over to Jeff's Pizza for a slice and a soda pop. For a slice and a soda. I could pick you up there once my shift is over at 3. Oswald considered for a moment. Jeff's Pizza was kind of weird.
Hello?
Jeff's Pizza was kind of weird, just like this challenge. It wasn't dirty exactly, but it was run down. The vinyl on the booth seats had been ripped, had been repaired with duct tape, and the plastic letters had fallen off the menu board above the counter, so the listed toppings include pepperoni and I'm an ogre. Okay. It was good that Jeff's Pizza used to be something bigger and better than it was now. There were tons of unused force plates and lots of unused electrical outlets along the base of the walls. Also on the far wall was a small stage, even though there were no performances there.
Hi.
Even though there were no performances there. Not even so much as a karaoke night. It was a strange place, sad and not what it had once been, like the rest of the town. That being said, the pizza was decent, and more important, it was the only pizza place in town. It was the only pizza place in town. It was the only pizza place in town.
Hi.
It was the only pizza place in town if you didn't count the kind of frozen food department at the snack space. The few good restaurants in town, including Gino's Pizza and Marco's Pizza, which unlike Jeff's had real pizza maker names, had closed their doors not long after the mill had. So you'll give me money for the pizza? Oswald asked, since Dad was so you'll give me money for the pizza since Dad's job Oswald's allowance had dwindled to practically nothing. Dad smiled, a kind of sad smile. It seemed, Oswald's son, we're bad off, but we're not so bad off that I can't spot you $3.50 for a slice and a soda. Okay, Oswald said it was hard to say no to a warm, gooey cheese slice. It was hard since it wasn't a school night and he wouldn't be again for quite some time.
Hi.
Since it wasn't a school night, it wouldn't be again for quite some time. Oswald stayed up after Dad went to bed and watched old Japanese monster movie, along with Jinx curled up purring on his lap. Oswald had seen a lot of B-grade Japanese horror films, but this one, Xanderex versus Mechan Xanderex, okay, sure, was new to him. As always, Xanderex had just looked like a giant dragon thing, but Mecha Xanderex reminded him of the mechanical animals he'd drawn and stripped of their fur. He laughed at the movie special effects. The main Xanderex destroyed was clearly a toy, and at how the actor's lip did not match the... Okay, it's Freddy. The actor's lip movements didn't match the dubbed in English. Somehow, though, he always found himself rooting for Xanderex. Zilndra. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I'm reading fast. Even though he was just a guy in a rubber suit, somehow he managed to have a lot of personality. In bed, he tried to count his blessings. He didn't have Ben. But he had monster movies. And he had monster movies. And the library, and lunchtime pizza slices. And lunchtime pizza slices. It was better than nothing, but it still wasn't going to be enough to keep him going all summer. Please, he wished. Oswald, please let something interesting happen. You're gonna wish you didn't say that. Oswald woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. The coffee he could do without, but the bacon smelled amazing. Breakfast meant time with his mom, often the only time he got with her, until the weekend. After one necessary stop, he hurried down the hall to the kitchen. Well, look at that! My rising 6th grader has risen. Mom was standing over the stove in her fuzzy pink bathrobe, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, flipping. Oh yum, were those pancakes? Oh yum, were those pancakes? Hi Mom, she opened her arms. I demand a morning hug! Oswald sighed like it annoyed him, but he went over and he hugged her. It was funny. With Dad, he always said that he was too old for hugs. He always said he was too old for hugs, but he never turned down his mom's open arms. Maybe it was because he didn't get to spend much time with her during the week. While he and Dad spent so much time together, they sometimes got on each other's nerves. Ah! You guys have no idea how hard this is. I'm hyper-focused on 2 things at once. It takes a lot out of you. Hey, but this has been the best run out of all of them. On FNAF 1, I only got to night 3, and FNAF 2, I died on night 2, and in the last one, I died on night 4, but I lost on night 2, so... Yay! Come on! Come on, Chica. We're gonna fight the Purple Man. We're gonna fight him! He mangled you. I have a funny feeling I'm gonna die on night 4, though. Night 4 is hard enough without it. He knew Mom missed him. He knew Mom missed him. He knew Mom missed him, and he felt bad for having. He knew Mom missed him, and he felt... And he felt bad for having...
Hello?
Okay. He knew Mom missed him, and he felt bad for having to work such long hours, but he also knew that since Dad's job at the snack space was just part-time, Mom's long hours were most of the reason the bills were getting paid. Mom always said that adult life was a fight between time and money. The money you earned to spend on bills and necessities, the less time you got to spend with your family. It was a difficult balance. Oswald sat down at the kitchen table and thanked his mom when she poured his orange juice.
Hello?
And she poured his orange juice. First day of summer break, huh? Mom went back to the stove and scooped a pancake with her spatula. He probably should have tried to sound more enthusiastic, but he couldn't muster.
Hi.
But he couldn't muster the energy. Neither can I. She slid a pancake onto his plate and then served him 2 strips of bacon.
Hi.
2 strips of bacon. Not the same without Ben, huh? He shook his head. He wasn't going to cry. Mom ruffled his hair. I know, it's a bummer, but hey, maybe a new friend will move into town. Oswald looked at her hopeful face. Why would anyone come here? Okay, I see your point, Mom said.
Hi.
Mom said, piling on another pancake. Piling on another pancake. Piling on another pancake. Fuck, I know. No. Okay, he's here. Piling on another pancake. Maybe, but I doubt it. Maybe, but I doubt it. Why would anyone come here? These pancakes are great, though. Mom smiled and ruffled his hair again. Well, I've got to get going for me anyway. Do you want more bacon? If you do, you'd better grab it before your dad gets in here and vacuums it all up. Sure! It was Oswald's,
Hi.
It was Oswald's what? No.
Hello.
And I'm blocked! Case in point. It's hard enough trying to find Springtrap when he does that when I'm not being distracted by having to read a book out loud at the same time. And my dog's barking. Of course he is. It's a FNAF tradition on my channel. Well, that was my single best run out of all 3. Now, actually, it was in the hardest game to do this in, so I feel pretty satisfied with that. So, thank you for watching. If there's enough interest, I might do this in FNAF 4. Only if I think there's enough interest. Only if I think there's enough interest will I consider doing this in FNAF 4, because FNAF 4, this would be hell. Doing this would be hell. It would suck. So yeah, if you want me to do it in FNAF 4, you better hit that like button so I know you want to see more of it. Alright? Or tell me in a comment. Or subscribe. Whatever way, tell me you want more, and I will do it in FNAF 4 if there's enough interest. That's it, though, for now. Go check out me doing this go check out my first attempt doing it in FNAF 3 if you want to see something pretty pitiful. I do think I've redeemed myself here. Go check out me doing this in FNAF 1 and FNAF 2. I'll link all the videos down below. And go check out my One Life Challenge FNAF series, where I try to beat the games without dying a single time. I've only done it in FNAF 2, but hey. So anyway, I will thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, whatever that ends up being. Maybe FNAF Plus if that releases. We can hope.